Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into the 20th century. Now, this was a time of absolutely mind-blowing progress, but it also saw a terrifying moral collapse. So, how did a world that felt so certain and so orderly just fall apart and give way to one of chaos and revolt? Let's get into it.
You know, this line from George Bernard Shaw just perfectly sums it up. It captures that feeling of an entire generation watching their whole world just crumble right out from under them. But what exactly was this eternal rock they were all standing on? To really get the shock of it all, we have to understand the world they lost.
So, to really appreciate the chaos that was coming, first, let's paint a picture of the world it replaced. We're talking about the super rigid, ordered, and, what they thought was, permanent world of the Victorians.
The Victorians really believed that their core institutions, the family, the British Empire, the Christian religion, were not just stable, they were the final version. They couldn't even imagine a world where these pillars could be challenged, let alone replaced. It was a mindset of absolute certainty.
So the whole Victorian vibe was really defined by this willing submission to authority and a really deep-seated belief that things were permanent. The idea of questioning the established order, it wasn't just frowned upon. For most people, it was completely unthinkable.
But of course, as we know, that stable world was about to be absolutely shattered. The 20th century came roaring in and unleashed a whole series of intellectual and scientific revolutions that basically turned everything upside down.
And what came next was a total reversal of values. The idea of permanence was replaced by this sense of constant change, or mutability. Authority wasn't just accepted anymore, it was questioned. And that old attitude of acceptance, it gave way to full-blown revolt.
And you had thinkers like Shaw who were really at the forefront of this new way of thinking. His personal creed, question, examine, test, it basically became a rallying cry. It encouraged a whole new generation to challenge every single dogma and authority figure they could find.
And of course, the scientific revolution was just delivering these incredible advancements. All of a sudden, humanity had the airplane and the motor car, and it felt like we were on the cusp of this amazing new age of mobility, freedom, and connection.
But, and this is the big but, that same engine of progress had a really dark side. It also created these horrifying new ways of killing people on a mass scale, which led to two absolutely devastating world wars and, eventually, the threat of nuclear annihilation. So progress and regress were happening at the exact same time.
Now this massive tension, this feeling that progress was maybe also a curse, it didn't just play out on battlefields or in science labs. It ripped right through the heart of culture itself, and it split the literary world into two completely distinct, opposing camps.
The year 1922 is often pinpointed as this major turning point. See, that's the year James Joyce's Ulysses and T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland were published. And with those books, it was like literature just retreated into this esoteric fastness, becoming intentionally difficult and pretty much inaccessible to the average person.
So this created two really clear groups. On one side, you had writers like Shaw and H.G. Wells. They believed in art for life's sake, basically writing for the community, for everyone. But on the other side, you had the Modernists, like Joyce and Eliot. Their motto was art for art's sake, and they were really only appealing to a small, intellectual, elite audience.
And this wasn't just about artistic taste, It was a whole philosophy. It was rooted in a kind of contempt for normal intelligence, and it created this huge chasm between artists and the public that they used to serve.
So, the fallout from all these upheavals went way beyond just art and literature. It actually reshaped the entire fabric of the state and changed the individual's place within it completely.
Okay, so the rise of the welfare state had this really fascinating, totally unintended consequence. It was created to bring social security and happiness, right? But instead of everyone being content, this mood of sullen discontent started to take hold. It's like maybe when the struggle for basic survival was removed, a deeper struggle for purpose began. The individual common man was kind of replaced by this depersonalized, anonymous mass man.
And at the exact same time, you have the rise of the assembly line. It completely destroyed individual skill and that pride people took in their craftsmanship. And this new indifference to form and style in manufacturing, it bled right into the arts, which helped fuel the rise of what became known as anti-art.
So, the final phase of this whole century of revolt. Well, it showed up as a new cultural phenomenon that, honestly, we're still grappling with today. The rise of youth culture as a powerful force of opposition.
And the most visible of these new rebels? They were the beatniks.
Their whole philosophy wasn't to try and fix society, but to completely contract out of it. They wanted to reject all of its respectable norms and social taboos.
This rebellion wasn't just an idea, it was expressed through a whole lifestyle of, well, purposeful squalor. From their clothes to the rejection of traditional religion, every single part of their lives was a very conscious statement against the established order. This wasn't just fashion, it was the ultimate rejection of that old Victorian belief in order and propriety.
So where did this all end up? Well, according to this analysis, the long revolt against authority led us to a culture that values public exposure over private virtue, a personality cult that's driven by a passion for exhibitionism.
And that leaves us with a final, pretty provocative question. In that rush to tear down the old Victorian world, with all of its very real flaws, did we accidentally lose something essential in the process? Have we maybe just traded one set of problems for another? It's definitely a question worth thinking about.